Hey, good morning, guys. Craig Gibson here for Sons of Liberty. We wanted to put this video out this morning for a couple of reasons. Starting with, so we just recently put out the post about the closeout corner section now being on the website. Found out yesterday that some people are not able to use the link to get to that page. Um, so you may have to go, into the website soltechpreps.com, go into shop, and then if you're on a computer, on the left-hand side of your screen is going to have the categories, and you can click on the category closeout corner. If you are on a smartphone, typically when you hit that shop, you'll have a bar across about midway, just under the header, that'll say categories. Right above, it'll start showing some products. You'll have to click on that, click the drop down for the category you're trying to look into. So eventually, hopefully here pretty soon, we're actually looking at switching from our current web host, because this is becoming an ongoing issue, and I know it's frustrating for you guys. It's very frustrating for us, because the whole point of the website was to have a wider reach than just here in Tennessee, and it just makes it difficult. Even prior to that, we've had people contact us. They've had a hard time getting on the website. Once they finally get on there, they're able to order the products that they're looking for. With that being said, we are going to be pulling temporarily. This is only a temporary thing. We're going to be pulling all the pet meds, which includes the fish and bird antibiotics and antifungals. The reason for this is because of this worldwide scare with the COVID-19, coronavirus, Wuhan flu, Kung flu, whatever you want to call it. It is extremely difficult right now to get in a lot of these products, and we buy our products direct from the manufacturer to make sure we're bringing you guys the best quality, the freshest product possible, and we can't even get it through them right now. That's how scared people are getting, and we'll get a little more into that in a moment. Gas masks, the N95 masks, goggles. All of our suppliers were having a hard time. They're starting to put out back order and shipping notices, shipping delay notices to us. So this is a prime example of why we do what we do. Okay. Now, the antibiotics, the pet meds, we don't keep a lot in stock, primarily because we go through periods where we have a lot of sales and then it kind of slows down. And in order, again, to make sure we're bringing you guys the best possible product with the best possible quality and shelf life, we don't keep a lot in stock. But this is why we do what we do. This is why we promote the preparedness. Because honestly, while I'm not personally afraid of this coronavirus, I'm not worried about it. I'm really not. And there's a lot of reasons behind that. But it's not just the coronavirus, okay? Hurricanes, floods, tornadoes, earthquakes, economic collapse, which we'll get a little further into here in a moment, civil unrest. These are things we need to be prepared for on it at all times. And what we're seeing, and it's typical, okay? This is very typical. We saw this a lot when we did the gun shows. You have some major event happen, whether it was the hurricane that hit Houston, hurricanes, hitting the Carolinas, Florida, tornadoes. Let's see. Of course, this COVID-19 deal. every gun show, following one of those events, we always had people coming up to us saying, I need to get some items. We thought about this before, but we didn't do it. And we got stuck in Houston for a week, 2 weeks, and we had nothing. We had to rely on FEMA, or we had to rely on somebody else coming in. Luckily, there was some, food available, so we were able to eat that. This is why we absolutely have to take personal responsibility. We must be responsible for our own well-being. We have to be responsible for making sure that we can protect ourselves and our families during bad times. Now, on an upside, we typically are not open on Mondays. But if you guys are in the Collinwood area, this coming Monday, which is the March 2nd, we will be open primarily because we're receiving a bunch of stock that day. So, feel free to come by. We're getting in a lot of things that people have been asking about, and so it's a very positive thing. It's given us some hope of continued growth, which is always a good thing. It also enables us to bring people things that they can actually use, things that they're going to want, things that will help them, whether it's just out on a fishing trip, camping, hiking, hunting, or sheltering in your home during a health crisis, or having extra food on hand with an economic recession or a total collapse. So anyway, come on by Monday if you feel like it, and come see what we're getting in. And I think you guys will be happy, and think you'll like what we're doing. Since we're here, quick update: ATF. We know they've processed the payment for our firearms license. We know they've got the paperwork. Now it's just the waiting game for waiting for them to complete their background checks and to eventually get an ATF agent out here to do their inspection. So we are still hoping by April at the latest we will be bringing firearms into Sons of Liberty. Okay, now back to coronavirus and that said we were going to get back to. Okay, first of all, antibiotics are not going to help you with a viral infection. And all too often people get these antibiotics and they think, okay, well, if I've got the flu or this coronavirus or whatever, they start taking antibiotics and they don't understand why they're not helping. Antibiotics are designed for bacterial infections, okay? They will combat bacteria. There are antivirals out there. You go to your doctor, you get your prescription. They have to be taken within a certain time frame to be the most effective. But again, all too often, we decide we need an antibiotic, whether we actually need it or not. There are sinus infections, for example. Sinus infections can go away without the use of an antibiotic. Antibiotics should be reserved with sinus infections for when, the pressure in the sinus cavity becomes so intense, becomes extremely painful. Not just your dull aching, your dull pressure. Your sinus cavities become inflamed, and with that inflammation, and you start building up congestion. That brings the pain. It blocks your ability to breathe through your nose properly. And in a lot of cases, it'll cause nausea and vomiting because of the drainage and the infection and that. So at that point, yeah, you might want to consider going to your doctor and getting the antibiotic. But rushing out to get an antibiotic just because you think you have something that it'll treat is the worst thing you can do. Why? Because as we keep taking these antibiotics, and with the amount of food, animal products that have antibiotics in them, our systems get so used to that antibiotic that when we actually need it, it's ineffective. Not to mention the fact the more antibiotics that we consume and we put into our food sources, the more likely we are to end up with antibiotic resistant strains of these bacteria. So now we've got to develop a whole new system and whole new medications in order to combat things that we could have taken care of quickly and easily. So if you think you've got the flu, you think you've got the cold, don't go trying to get an antibiotic. Go to your doctor. Let them help you decide if an antibiotic is truly necessary. For those of you that stockpile the fish antibiotics and antifungals for emergencies, know what you're getting, know what you're taking, know what you're using it for. Great book to kind of help you. And don't get me wrong, book knowledge alone will not give you the information you need. You've got to research this stuff. You've got to be fully prepared. But great book is the Survival Medicine Handbook by Dr. Bones and Nurse Amy, and I can't remember his actual name. Great book, great information, and he'll even tell you straight out in there, when you have access to healthcare, don't go reaching for the antibiotics. Don't treat it. If it's beyond your basic Band-Aid, taking some Mucinex and so on and so forth. If it requires a doctor, go to the doctor. Get the help you need so that you can get on the proper medication for the proper time period. Because here's the other thing. People have adverse reactions to different medications. You give somebody an antibiotic that they're allergic to, and you're going to run into some problems, sometimes fatal. The other thing is you may, even if you're only taking it for your own personal use, okay, you may have taken amoxicillin 100 times in your life and never had a reaction. But you take it that 101st time and all of a sudden you're having an allergic reaction and you have no idea why or what's going on. This is why you in times when you have access to medicine, use it. And when I say medicine, healthcare, hospitals, clinics, doctors. Okay, so I think we've pretty much covered all that. Coronavirus. Why am I not afraid of the coronavirus? Well, okay, the virus itself, I'm really not. And here's why. You look at the numbers. Look at the real hard data. Now, granted, not enough is really known about it. From what they know, it has a lot of the same symptoms as a flu. From what I understand, it's a SARS type virus, which anybody who lived through the SARS scare remembers that one. They know that it can transmit person to person. Of course, you've always got your droplet procedures and precautions that need to be taken. Coughing, sneezing, being in close proximity to someone who is showing symptoms. The downside is they're saying that this can they believe it can be transmitted by an infected person who's not showing any signs or symptoms to a non-infected person. So there are differences, but infected surfaces, cleaning. So the best ways to prevent it is, again, not going out when you're sick. When you're hacking and sneezing and running a fever, and don't you don't need to be out in public during that time period. Keep your little petri dish germ goblins at home. Don't send them to school when they're sick. I understand you have to work. You find a way. That's part of being an adult. That's part of being a responsible adult and a responsible parent. You find a way to not send your little petri dish germ goblin out into public. Cleaning your countertops, your light switches, your doorknobs. People, when they clean their houses, they don't ever think of those things. And honestly, when I was younger, I would have never thought of those things. Luckily, in working in healthcare and with one of my bosses, she was very adamant about making sure that we cleaned doorknobs, light switches, baseboards. Um, Not that the patients were down messing with baseboards, but as different viruses and bacteria that build up on those baseboards, eventually through somebody walking by throwing dust particles in the air, it can spread this, right? So, it's a great lesson that I learned from her, um, and we continue to do at home and even here in the store. So, cleaning, using bleach, if you can. If you're like me, you might have to use something like vinegar or hydrogen peroxide. Never mix the two directly in the same container, or you will cause some serious issues. It's very similar to mixing chlorine bleach and ammonia. You're going to cause eye irritation, skin irritation, respiratory problems, possibly quit breathing, and possibly die from this. Now, what you can do is on your hard surfaces, spray some hydrogen peroxide on there. Let it set about 5 minutes. Take a clean cloth, wipe it down. Then you can actually go back and spray vinegar, white vinegar on it. This will not cause that same reaction and is safe and will further, kill germs, bacteria, viruses, things that are going to make you sick. Okay. Um, and hand washing, covering your sneeze and cough. The same things we're all told every single year. This is nothing new, but we act like it's new every time something happens. So the numbers, over 84,000 people infected worldwide. Uh, if I remember right, it's hit like 57 countries. And, that's a lot of people. Sounds like a lot of people. When you look at the overall scope of the amount of people in the world, it's a very small number. I mean, that's like taking a basketball and a golf ball in comparison. Okay, but still, it's a big number. It's not under control yet, so there is going to be more infections. Um, of that number, last number I saw, like 2,927 people have died from it. Now we're talking 3.5%, 4% of the cases are dying from this virus. But over 39,000, so almost 47%, are recovering from it. Now, I don't know how accurate the information is. There's talk that there's been a couple of people who contracted it, recovered from it, and have now tested positive a second time, if that's the case, then they already know they're dealing with really an unknown virus at this point, but that could lead to some concern. The biggest concern for me personally, from my standpoint, is the economic concern worldwide. Because our world operates on such a system where countries rely on each other to get some goods and services, and when you have a worldwide outbreak like this, it affects the global economy. And without getting into conspiracy theories, because I don't want to get into that. Don't without hard evidence, it's not really an issue. But it is interesting that economists have been saying the last couple of years we were going to have an economic collapse or a recession in 2021, and this could trigger that worldwide recession, mimicking, hopefully not worse than 2008, 2009, right in there, when we saw the economic collapse here in the U.S. So that is my biggest concern, more the economic ramifications of this. So as far as signs, symptoms, all that, so you're going to see things, and keep in mind, these you can see in other things like the typical flu, bronchitis, things like that. So, you're talking of a sustained fever of, about 102.2 degrees, dry cough, and those have been seen in 60 to 100% of the cases. Some of the other signs and symptoms you will find, and this has actually been in less of the cases, but it's still there. Difficult or labored breathing, a productive cough. So you're coughing, and instead of a dry cough, you've got mucus actually coming up. Blood in the cough. Now, when you're coughing that much that you're irritating the throat, the bronchi, the lungs themselves, yes, there's a good chance you could get blood in your cough. You could get blood-stained mucus, because as you irritate those linings and get real small lesions, is it cause for concern? Not necessarily. I mean, how often do you cough and going through a bout of bronchitis and, oh, okay, a little bit of blood, no big deal. Now, but again, this can be seen in things like bronchitis, lung cancer, tuberculosis, pneumonia. So you absolutely need to have confirmation of what you have. Don't assume that you have pneumonia, or assume you have the flu, or assume you have coronavirus simply because you have some of these or all of these. Muscle pain. How often do we hear about people with the flu and muscle pain? Headache, sore throat, runny nose, the typical stuff. Your best course of action is to stay away from people when you're having these symptoms. Seek medical attention if you need it. And again, if you're showing all these, you might want to at least go get tested, find out what you've got going on. It could be the flu, it could be, could be bronchitis, could be corona. You don't know. So don't panic and just assume the worst. Okay? There's so many things it could be that it needs to be professionally looked at, tested, treated. Okay? So, like I said, when it comes to this coronavirus, I'm not worried about it. And I really hope you guys aren't going to be panicking about it as well, because panic doesn't help. Panic only makes the situation worse. Uh, and unfortunately, panic makes capitalism its greatest. And what I mean by that is, you look at what capitalism is, not that there's anything wrong with it. I absolutely love it. Uh, what I don't agree with is what happens in some of those cases, like right now. You try to buy gas masks and you're going to be paying an outrageous amount in a lot of cases. Uh, N95 masks, I've been seeing them even on Amazon for like $75. Really? Really, for an N95 mask? That prior to this, you could go to Home Depot and get like a 3-pack, I think, $6 or something. You could buy them on Amazon at that time, 100 for like $20. Okay. So again, panic only makes things worse. And the only people that benefit from panic are those with absolutely zero morals. Because while on the capitalistic side, it's a wonderful thing that people can uh, make money, charge, really what they want, and people are willing to pay for those goods or services at those rates. But at the same time, you have to look at morals and ethics. Is it morally right to take advantage of this situation? Is it ethically right to take advantage of this situation? And this has always been our standpoint. When we see companies after hurricanes, after tornadoes, after floods, or in this case, taking advantage of people because they can. Personally, I wouldn't want to do business with a company with zero morals and zero ethics. And I can guarantee you that as far as us, as far as Sons of Liberty goes, you're never going to find that. Because our philosophy has always been putting people before profits. So, anyway, guys, I know this has run a little long, but we just had so much to get out this morning. Hope to see you guys come in maybe today, try some of our Java Grenade coffee. We've got it brewing. Stop in Monday. If you want, we're going to be here. I would think, normally our hours are 9 to 7 Tuesday through Friday. Monday, I would plan, if you're going to stop in, I would think closer to 10. We got some things we got to do first thing in the morning. But anyway, guys, until then, stay safe, try to stay healthy. Use your brains. Use your brains, guys. Do the research. Look at things logically. Don't believe everything you hear in the media. Don't believe everything the politicians tell you. Don't believe everything the World Health Organization tells you or the CDC tells you. Because we all know how often they're actually correct. But anyway, guys, take care. Have a great rest of your weekend. And we will definitely see you back on video Tuesday with our next Constitution Coffee and Service.